Home Secretary, what can you say to reassure us about the appearance of the spaceship over London last night?
Of course, saying nothing that may compromise national security, we are currently trying to contact these aliens to ascertain their intentions coming here, but we have received no reply as of yet. Of course, once we do, I'm sure that you'll be the first to know.
But does the government have a plan in case they're hostile?
I cannot discuss such sensitive matters at this time, but please be assured that measures are in place to ensure the safety of those living in London and the surrounding regions. We have already begun the evacuation of boroughs directly below the craft.
There are some that say they are here to invade us, and insider sources are telling us that they have aid from the British government. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's quite the allegation. All I shall say is, you might think that, but I couldn't possibly comment.
Thank you, Home Secretary.
Thank you. Yes?
You assured me that the humans were not aware of your collaboration.
You need not worry, my friend. They are just journalists, blowing hot air to see if it bears fruit.
What is the relevance of this fruit?
Simply a figure of speech. My fellow Earthlings are none the wiser to our plans. I can assure you that this leak will be dealt with.
See to it.
Well, how terrible of me, colluding with little green men from outer space. Or rather, these are not little green men from outer space, but bloodthirsty warriors with far superior technology. Technology that I can use to my advantage. But what will the Prime Minister think of all this? Well, luckily, they are but an afterthought. My agents have already dealt with them in Canada, leaving room for someone to be a caretaker in their absence. How fortunate of me that there is no one in the cabinet nor the party capable enough to take over and shepherd this country through such a trying time. Oh, I made sure of that. This is not a plan that has been months or years in the making. It has taken me decades to put all the correct pieces into play, elevating myself within a party where I could be the puppet master, pushing selections so that my candidates were put into place, the ones that could win me a general election, but with no real talent to oppose me, unwitting pawns with no real idea of who they were listening to, who they were taking orders from. I provided the country with a Prime Minister to inspire them, to lead them, all without ever knowing they were listening to my words through another voice. But it's now time to cut the strings, to rid the puppet master of his most burdensome puppet. Oh, I do adore this country, you know. I love this planet. But if I'm to truly make a difference, to put myself in the history books, to be used as a case study by A-level students, then these are the measures that I must take. The Martians are the future of this world, and I will not be left in its past.
Wait. No. We're not doing the House of Cards thing for the whole video. Alright, it was good to do a bit of politics for the intro gag, but that's it. We're leaving it there. It's off the table. Run the regular intro, and let's do the video like normal. A great intro, a nice sunny-ish day, though it does look pretty glum out there. The only problem is that I look incredibly tired, and that's because I am incredibly tired. But don't worry, we're going to be fine. I'm also not dressed as well as I was in the intro, which does make sense. I mean, I'm not wearing a suit anymore, so yeah. With this entry, I do know that I'm taking a bit of a sidestep here into the VNAs, a series that I have absolutely zero context for because I haven't actually read any of them. Apart from Langbarrow, in a way. I did listen to it on YouTube by Clever Dick Films, a fantastic audiobook that he made. But this was after I'd actually written the script and also read this. So, yeah, I went into this knowing that he'd been through Langbarrow, but with no idea of what actually happened in Langbarrow. Which, despite being a story that I've used for so many videos, just as a source, I still had no idea what to expect coming from it. There will be a review of that eventually. You'll have to wait for that one. It says in the script, I do plan to read it at some point, even if I don't make it out the other end. Thankfully I did make it out the other end, and I've got some great ideas lined up for that one. But other than the Doctor just having gone through Lungbarrow, I also know that Bernice Summerfield, who features in this novel, is the main character of the VNAs following the dying days. She was married to a guy called Jason Kane, and their wedding took up an entire novel. Yeah, it's got a really cool cover, but other than that, I've got no idea what to expect here. And it pleasantly surprised me. I do just want to take a little side tangent to talk about in general, and I'm sure if I ever do the VNAs, I will talk about this more, is just the cover art in general of the VNAs is absolutely gorgeous. Unlike the BBC stuff, each one is a bespoke piece of art that is just so gorgeous to look at. Mind you, some are significantly better than others. I mean, who's that little guy? Huh? Who's that guy? That's not the Seventh Doctor. I don't know who that guy is. But for the most part, yeah, they are some fantastic pieces of art. And I'd love to own all of them just so I could look at them. Not even really read them, because I've heard some of them are absolute crap. But just to look at the covers and be like, yeah, I own that. Though I think if I thought that the EDAs bankrupted me in getting all of them, I've got another thing coming when it comes to the VNAs. Though, to be fair, I did start with, I think, like the second or third most expensive one, which is fair enough, but I was only going to buy one originally, and I've managed to stick to that, to be fair. I've only managed to buy one. Good lord. But yeah, The Dying Days is absolutely no different when it comes to being a fantastic piece of cover art. This one's done by Fred Gambino, who coincidentally also did Lungbarrow, which is a fantastic piece of cover art. The Ice Warrior in this especially looks like an absolute tank, even if I have no idea what this pose is meant to be. I mean, is he surrendering or something? Is he putting up his arms and saying, hey, I'm over here? I don't know. But, like, yeah, it looks a bit odd, but it is a fantastic piece of art. Other than those few details, I really have no idea what the journey of Bernice Summerfield is, where it came from, and, well, where it'll go. But I can definitely see from just this novel why she was taken on as the main character for the rest of the series. A time-travelling archaeologist has a much more unique perspective on history than anyone else. Every event that she witnesses, she looks through the lens of, every event here will be dug up one day and analysed, so I better analyse it now. Maybe she later inspired a certain Stephen Moffat character with a couple of those traits, though I will say that they are, apart from being time-travelling archaeologists, basically nothing alike. But being an archaeologist that does time travel means she knows quite a lot of context about what's going on. As a native of 25,000, everything happening in 1997 is kind of like ancient history to her. Not everything needs to be explained to her, as most of the time she's actually able to do the explaining herself, especially when it comes to Martian history. The Dying Days is interesting in that it does feel a bit more like a Bernice Summerfield novel than an Eighth Doctor novel. She's the main character in the beginning, waiting at the Doctor's cottage, and she's still really the main character at the end. And I do think that makes sense, considering she is going to be the main character for the rest of the series. Virgin knew that they weren't going to have the license for long, so you might as well make this a transitional novel. One way to certainly describe this is as, I guess, a companion-led story. Sure, as soon as the Doctor does show up, he does get a larger share of the limelight, but that does make sense. He's the Doctor, she's the companion here. One thing the VNAs are particularly infamous for is the amount of adult themes, taking Doctor Who into depths where it had never really been before because it couldn't, it was family TV. Lance Parkin is no different to any other VNA writer when it comes to this. He doesn't write the most violent of stories, but he certainly has an erotic mind, to say the least. I will say this is, from what I've heard, the most tame one of his, but the signs are definitely there. Let me show you some passages. The proprietor glared at them. If you can't pay, could you at least keep it quiet? This is a good bit. If you'll excuse us one moment, the Doctor said, smiling. He took his companion to one side. Couldn't you, persuade him? How? Bernice scowled. Well, you're not a little girl anymore. I beg your pardon, she snapped, before remembering the urgency of the situation. She bit her lip. Okay. Bernice leant forward and flashed her eyes at the proprietor, who dragged himself away from his movie. I don't have any money, but I think I have something you might find of interest. She leant forward and whispered into his ear, before pulling back. Do you want that? Bernice asked softly. If you'll do that for me, the fat little man said in all seriousness, then you can have as much connect time as you want, and free cappuccinos. Oh, come on, Lance. We know what you meant here. Then we have page 159 to 160, where our main man, Alexander Christian, meets a 15-year-old lady of the night. "You're not worried about the curfew affecting business?" She smiled as she chewed. Her mouth was full. "In's he bowled. I don't just work nights. I'm in what they call a recession-proof industry. Whatever happens, I'll be okay." She had a tiny bruise on her temple, scars on her wrist, and underneath that t-shirt he could see her ribs. Christian wanted to hold her, to take her little body and give her a hug. If he could just take her home, give her a bath and a comfortable bed to sleep in, she'd be safe. But that was what she wanted silly old men like him to think, wasn't it? "I'm sure you will," he replied, getting up. "Thanks for breakfast. Thanks for talking to me." Why did you write this, Lance? Why? This particular clan is led by Lord Ixnal, who works with the peer Lord Greyhaven, who from the artwork is almost definitely meant to be a reference to Francis Urquhart. I mean, that's very clearly Ian Richardson, who is, coincidentally, the father of Miles Richardson, who plays Irving Braxiatel. Ixnal and the Ice Warriors as a whole are very effective villains, and the culture shock they get when they reach Earth, and the culture shock that humanity of all things has, is a really interesting read. We get the usual panic as the Ice Warrior ship looms over London, not really doing much, and as it continues not really doing much, after a while, their presence becomes normalised. They become part of daily life. One of my absolute favourite scenes when it comes to the Ice Warriors is when Ixnal gets a rushed coronation as King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and Berwick-upon-Tweed. "With this sword, do justice," the priest intoned. "Stop the growth of iniquity, protect the Holy Church of God, punish and reform what is amiss, and confirm what is in good order, and so faithfully serve our Lord Jesus Christ in this life, that you may reign for ever with him in the life which is to come." "I am to share my throne with this Jesus Christ," Znal bellowed. "I will accept no joint sovereignty. Bring this Christ here. I challenge him to a duel with weapons of his choosing." Greyhaven hurried forwards. No, my lord. Your Majesty, I'll explain afterwards." Znal nodded, glaring. "You will do that." Yeah, an Ice Warrior tries to fight Jesus. Honestly, I don't know how Parkin thought of this one. He pays attention to every little detail, and if you know me, then you know by now I love it when someone pays attention to every little detail. As villains, the Ice Warriors are great. They're a constant looming threat over London with their superior technology, but in actuality, they're relying on local collaborators as their civilization has stagnated. They developed advanced technologies thousands of years earlier than humanity, but as materials ran dry and Mars became sterile, they needed another source of resources, and so Earth is the prime target. The collaborators get advanced technology schematics, and the Ice Warriors get a new planet with plenty of resources to experiment with. To finally conclude after this really long video, or at least I'm expecting it to be really long considering how long I've been recording and the 4-minute intro, this is an 8 out of 10 from start to finish. When it comes to negatives, I honestly can't really think of many, except maybe the pacing towards the end feels a little bit rushed. It goes along at a nice even pace for the first 250 pages, and then for the final 50 kind of remembers, oh bugger, how am I going to end this? I've not got long left. I definitely think a lot of the earlier segments could have been cut down to provide more for the ending, but I mean, it is what it is. There's also at the end a certain conjugal action that's performed between the Doctor and Benny that feels like just another "oh Lance" moment. One of my favourite parts is later on after a huge event that is handled very, very well, being the death of the 8th Doctor. I'm not going to give any context to that. Once the Doctor is removed from the equation, there's a short time skip that explains through the memoirs of Bernice Summerfield, which is just so fitting for an academic archaeologist. I don't know if the VNAs have done this before or do it since, but it's just such an inventive way of storytelling when you have a character like this. In short, a brilliant story. We even get a cameo from the 4th Doctor, Romana 2 and K9 at the Queen's recoronation, as well as Lalla Ward herself with Richard Dawkins at some point. It's fun, what more can I say? Next time we're back onto the EDAs with Placebo Effect by Grussell, so if you did enjoy this video then make sure to leave a like, subscribe down below and tell me what you thought about it in the comments. Especially that intro, I want to hear about your thoughts on that intro. I put a lot of work into that, and even though it wasn't the greatest, I definitely could have, well, refined it a bit more. yeah, I want to hear what you thought about the whole video, and especially that intro, because I will do more gags like that if I have the opportunity, and also the ideas, because thinking of this stuff, you think, right, I've got this idea, it's a great idea, how do I realise this in actuality when I've got, like, this cobbled together setup with a tripod and a stool and a bin stacked on top of a chair to record with? Yeah, I'll try my best with anything that you throw my way. Yeah. But, as always, thanks for watching. And, well, hopefully see you next time. It doesn't feel like long ago that I read Placebo Effect, but I know it was a while ago, because I'm just so slow now. I think, was I reading Placebo Effect at the beginning of this series in September? It's taken me 6 months. Wow. Time flies by.